This year marks a huge milestone for the Pokémon franchise, its 30th anniversary. And the Pokémon TCG celebrates that anniversary too, since the Japanese base set was released on October 20th, 1996. In 3 decades, more than 120 sets and over 20,000 different cards have been released, including countless holy grails and some of the most sought-after collectibles in the hobby. And even after 30 years, Pokémon hasn't slowed down at all. If anything, its appeal is stronger than ever. The Pokémon TCG in particular is living through another golden age. You've probably seen it in the news, cards reaching record-breaking prices, people lining up or fighting over packs and boxes, and massive interest from collectors all around the globe. At the same time, the current state of the Pokémon TCG can feel overwhelming. There are thousands of cards, new sets releasing every 2 months, and scalpers heavily affecting prices. All of this can be very discouraging, especially for people approaching the hobby for the first time, and even for longtime fans who want to come back to their childhood passion. But don't worry, it is absolutely still possible to start collecting Pokémon cards in 2026. And not only that, I honestly believe this year might be one of the best times ever to start. In this video, I'll help you understand how to collect Pokémon cards in a smart and enjoyable way, without overspending, without feeling pressured to collect everything, and without being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of cards out there. So enough with the introduction, let's get into the video. Hello internet and welcome to my channel, TCG Monkey here. Today we'll go through the many different ways you can start your Pokémon card collection, no matter what your budget looks like. But first, I want to give you a bit of context about where the Pokémon TCG stands right now. The card game generally follows the release of the video games. Each group of sets is influenced by the current generation of games, and this period is usually referred to as an era. At the end of 2025, with the release of Pokémon Legends ZA, the Scarlet and Violet era officially ended, and the Pokémon TCG entered the Mega Evolution era, which will last until the next mainline Pokémon games are released. Every year, 6 main sets are released in English. Each set contains a different number of cards and rarities. Japanese and English releases can vary quite a lot. Japanese sets usually come out about 2 months earlier and are generally smaller, while English sets often combine 2 Japanese sets together and also include other cards that were originally released separately in Japan, such as promos or deck exclusives. And it doesn't stop there. English Pokémon cards aren't only released in expansion sets. They also come in decks, promotional cards, special collection and exclusive products, many of which include unique artworks that cannot be found anywhere else. So how do you even start collecting in such a chaotic situation? As I mentioned earlier, there are several ways to approach collecting, and it all depends on your personal goals and how much you're willing to spend on the hobby. The first decision you should make is the language you want to collect. Pokémon cards are printed in more than 15 different languages in 2026, which is pretty unique among TCGs. In theory, you can choose any language you like. That said, in my opinion, the 2 main languages for new collectors are still English and Japanese. English cards are the most common in the West. They're easier to find locally, at least in theory, and they generally hold the highest value on the secondary market. They're also the best option if you want to play the game or want to easily read your cards. Japanese cards, on the other hand, are Pokémon's original language and are usually much cheaper than English cards, and often cheaper than other European languages like French or Italian as well. If you're mainly interested in collecting cards for their artwork and don't really care about playing, Japanese cards can be a fantastic choice, because they allow you to collect more while spending less. However, there's an important detail to consider. Since English cards are more valuable, they're also more heavily targeted by scalpers. In some areas, it can actually be easier and cheaper to find a Japanese booster box at a reasonable price than an English one, even if you live in an English-speaking country. There are also simplified Chinese and Korean cards, which are even cheaper than Japanese and sometimes include exclusive cards you cannot find in other languages. They're definitely worth considering, although I personally find them a bit harder to source compared to Japanese cards. I made a video on simplified Chinese cards some time ago, so if you're interested, you should totally check it out. Once you've chosen your language, you're ready to actually start collecting, and there are many paths you can follow. In my opinion, one of the easiest ways to begin is by collecting recent sets. And here, there are 3 different levels: completing the base set, the full set, or the master set. Let me explain with an example. Let's take the Phantasmal Flames set, released in late 2025. This set contains 94 cards in its base numbering. You can see this number in the bottom corner of each card. For example, this Mega Charizard X is card number 13 out of 94. These 94 cards make up the base set and include commons, uncommons, rares, double rares, and occasionally other rarity types. But that's not the end of it. Since the early 2010s, Pokémon has included alternate versions of certain cards. In recent years, these include illustration rares, ultra rares, special illustration rares, and hyper rares. In Phantasmal Flames, there are 36 additional cards, bringing the total to 130. These cards are easy to spot because their numbering goes beyond the base set. For example, this Dugong, which is number 97 out of 94, or this Meowth, which is number 106. If you want to complete the full set, you need all these cards, and that's where costs can rise dramatically. Some of these cards can be very valuable, with prices of several hundreds of dollars. And finally, to complete a master set you need every alternate version of every card, including reverse holo cards, which are cards with a holofoil pattern everywhere except on the artwork. There's usually one reverse holo for each common, uncommon, and rare card. On top of that, many collectors also include all the promo cards associated with the set, creating what's often referred to as a Grandmaster set. For Phantasmal Flames, this means an additional 84 reverse holos and 19 promo cards on top of everything else. This usually doesn't increase the total cost dramatically if you buy cards on the secondary market, but it does make the set much harder to complete, since you'll need to track down almost twice as many cards compared to a full set. To put things into perspective, if you buy every card of the English Phantasmal Flames base set on the secondary market, you can complete it for under $20. Completing the full set, however, costs you over $1,000, mainly because the special illustration rare Mega Charizard EX alone is worth more than $500. Completing the master set adds a bit more, but reverse holos are surprisingly cheap, just over $10, and promos can be found for around $70. As you can see, this method allows you to enjoy collecting even on a small budget. With $15 to $30, you can complete the base set of almost any modern release. You won't get the biggest hits, but I promise you, it's still a lot of fun. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's free for you, but it makes a big difference for me. Thank you! Another great way to collect is by focusing on your favorite Pokémon. This approach removes the pressure of chasing new releases and turns collecting into a journey through different eras, artists, and art styles. For example, if your favorite Pokémon is Venusaur, you have more than 70 different cards to choose from, spanning the entire history of the TCG. On the other hand, if your favorite Pokémon is Quagsire, there are only 17 cards, and most of them cost just a few cents, with the most expensive currently around $35. Of course, some Pokémon are much tougher to collect. So, Pikachu and Charizard collectors, I wish you good luck. But even then, you don't need to collect everything. You can just focus on the cards you like the most and that fit your budget. And so yeah, even Charizard collectors can have fun without skipping their monthly rent. Another fantastic approach is collecting cards by your favorite artists. Personally, I love artists like Tomokazu Komiya and Shinji Kanda. Komiya has been illustrating cards since the early days of Pokémon, and there are plenty of affordable options, such as the Gengar line from 151. Shinji Kanda has illustrated fewer cards, but some are incredibly valuable, like the Magikarp from Paldean Fates or the Giratina from Lost Origin. At the same time, there are many underrated gems that cost just a few cents, like this Duraludon or this Absol. If you enjoy the artistic side of Pokémon cards, this is an amazing way to build a collection. One of the best additions of modern Pokémon sets is illustration rare cards. These are full art illustrations where artists take the entire card as their canvas to create wonderful artworks. And despite what many people think, most of them are very affordable. There are over 300 illustration rares priced under $10, and many cost even less. For Phantasmal Flames, all 13 illustration rares together are worth about $55, with only 2 above $10. Just remember not to confuse them with the special illustration rares, which are alternate versions of EX Pokémon such as the Mega Charizard we saw before. These are much harder to pull and far more expensive. And finally, if your budget is extremely limited, but you still want that sense of completion, one of the most fun options is creating a Pokédex collection. With thousands of cards available, you can find beautiful artworks for each Pokémon for just a few cents. I'm actually planning a series where I build a complete Pokédex using only cards under $1, so stay tuned for that. Pokémon cards have been with us for 30 years, and they're not going anywhere. They continue to get new fans and bring old ones back. Collecting them is an incredibly fun hobby, just remember to treat it as such. So don't overspend, don't speculate on other people's passion, and most importantly, keep it fun. That was it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. TCG Monkey out.